What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to our season preview series. This is a series where I'm breaking down all 30 NBA teams before the start of the regular season, and now it's kind of the dead point in the basketball calendar year. Not too many people are all that fixated on basketball, but if you're a basketball sweat like me, you're trying to get ready for the season. It's really not that far away before we're getting into like preseason and all of that stuff, so I'm here to kind of get you guys all caught up and ready for that. In this video, we're going to be covering the New Orleans Pelicans, who are in a state. They're in a state. That's the best way to put this team right now. They're a little bit confusing, but we're going to talk about it. In this video, we're going to cover what their season looked like last year and some goals for them, what their offseason looked like, a complete roster, and like salary cap, draft, asset breakdown. We'll even do some mock trades. We'll talk about rotations and lineups, and finally finish with the standings prediction at the very end of the video. But before we get into all that, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. Again, these season previews are kind of for the basketball sweats. There's not a ton of people actively looking for content like this right now, so the views are a little bit low on this series, but there's a ton of other season previews for you guys to watch. You can get caught up on every team going into the season, and yeah, just try to show them some love and support, because your boy wants a reason to keep doing these every year. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. Let's jump into the video. And that brings us back here to our season preview spreadsheet. For those of you that don't know, I like to build these spreadsheets to kind of help articulate and visualize the stories that I'm trying to tell on YouTube. And you can actually get access to this spreadsheet. It's really simple. All you have to do is go down into the description of this video. There's a link to join my Discord there. If you go onto the announcements channel, you'll see a link to download the spreadsheet there. It's really quick, really simple. You can do whatever you want with it, and I'm updating the sheet like every single day, so just come back for updates when you need them. But anyway, let's talk about the Pelicans, because, oh boy, they're in a weird spot, right? What did last season look like? Everybody was injured. Everybody. They all got hurt. I don't know what was going on, man. It wasn't just like a Zion thing. DeJounte was hurt. Trey Murphy was hurt, right? We all saw the one lineup where they put on where Elfrid Payton literally got like picked up that day, and he went out there and dropped like 15 assists or whatever, and like didn't shoot the ball, something stupid like that. I don't know exactly what it was, but this team got gross really fast at points last year. And yes, Zion came back at the end of the year. He looked pretty good. He looked like he was getting into shape. And I think it's important for all of us to realize when Zion is out there playing, he's still one of the best basketball players in the world, man. He just flies up and down the court. There's nothing you can really do to stop him. He's really dynamic, but there's obviously a lot of things going on in that guy's life outside of just the health of his body. So a lot to always talk about with them, but I don't even think we should spend a lot of time talking about what was kind of going on last season, because it was just such a mess in terms of injuries. Like they didn't stand a chance, right? They were one of the worst teams in the league last year because they just didn't have an NBA roster for most of the season. It was really crazy. They were 21-61, and that leaves their franchise status in a not so great place currently. For those of you new to this series, I've got a couple different categories that teams can kind of fall into in their current state. I've got selling teams. Those are teams actively trying to blow things up and kind of reset their team. Rebuilding teams are teams that are kind of trying to find those core pieces that they want to build their franchise around. Growing means you found those core pieces and you're trying to put the right vets around them, kind of let those guys grow up with the team and try to become contenders eventually. Contending teams, obviously the team's trying to win a championship. And then the who the fuck knows category, because there's always a couple of those teams, and this is definitely one of them where we don't know exactly what this franchise is trying to do. Some of that's because of circumstances that they can't quite control, like a lot of injuries and things like that, but also just a lot of the moves they're making don't necessarily make a ton of sense to us, maybe as just like basketball observers, but even me, who's like within kind of like some of these circles, I'm like, what the hell is this team doing right now? I'm confused, and we'll kind of talk about all of that, right? But this franchise is in a weird state right now. They've also got some new people in charge right now, and Mr. Dumars, and I can't remember the other guy's name that's kind of running this stuff. Those guys are always interesting when they kind of get into front offices again, so we're gonna see what they do, because they've already made some moves, man. They've already made some moves. But let's just hop right into goals that we have for this season. Stay healthy. I know, but good lord, like nothing matters if this team can't stay healthy at all, right? Because if that's the case and these guys can't stay healthy this year, if you've got Zion problems, if you got DeJounte Murray problems, if you got Herb Jones problems, or list whatever other damn player you want on here, you got to blow it up. Just blow it up, man. You got to reset because it's not working. Like, you're paying a decent chunk of change to this team, and yes, it's not like an old team by any means, but we have nothing that says that this team necessarily works well together because they've never been able to stay healthy, and what's the point of continuing trying? Like, let's try to reset, restructure our organization a little bit and see if we can't just go with a clean slate again. I know that's hard, but is what it is. And that kind of leads us into my next goal, which is use this year to make a Zion decision. Again, it's important to realize Zion Williamson is a very good basketball player. If you're one of those people that likes to get online and shit on Zion for like his lack of availability and everything, yeah, I get it. Yes, he's out of shape at times or whatever. Even when he is out of shape, like, he's still better than most other NBA players. And when he was kind of in shape last year, he was pretty damn dominant, man. There's just not much you can do to stop the guy. And it's hard, right? Because if this guy wasn't the freak talent that he was, his leash wouldn't be this long, right? And that's life. It doesn't seem fair or whatever, but that is how the world works. You got more talent and more potential to dig into, you're going to get a few more chances with things. So we hope that we can see a healthy Zion where there's no weird, like, off the court stuff as well, and that he's just balling and dominating people. I think we all remember that one, like, play-in game. How long ago was that even now? Was it just like 2 years ago? Even where he was just eating and dominating, and then he got hurt and the Pelicans just had like no chance in the playoffs or whatever as soon as he went down, and that just sucked because we wanted to see playoff Zion. We all do. I think this is the year. If we can't come into this season and it makes sense, I think it's time to make a tough call, unfortunately. I really just think that you got to do something to kind of reset yourselves, which is unfortunate because you would have done a similar thing with Anthony Davis. And now we're starting to look at New Orleans and being like, oh, like what's going on here, right? But anyway, final goal, find a spacing center if Zion is playing. It's very evident. We talk about in a lot of videos, like, operating areas when it comes to the Pelicans, because the last couple, like, players that they've added to this team, you go, okay, these are overlapping operating areas with your best player, and your best player is a hard player to build around, right? Because he's this forward that doesn't shoot from the outside or anything. He doesn't necessarily even have the ball that much because he's just working without the ball a ton, and it's really hard to have like a center roaming like the dunker spot or even just like in pick and rolls and stuff because it doesn't make sense with Zion on the court. And so you need a center that can step out and hit. And you kind of had Kelly Olynyk last year, but it is still Kelly Olynyk. So you got to do something to try to find a spacing center if Zion is playing this year. We have to try to optimize it as much as we can. So those are the goals. I hope that you keep all of this stuff in mind as we move throughout the rest of this video because it'll be important. But with all that being said, let's just move right into what their offseason was like. Alrighty, the off-season tab. There's probably a lot on this one. Yep, yes there is. If you've been watching my channel for any amount of time or you just watched the season preview series last year, you're pretty used to this tab. Really, there's kind of 3 important sections of things. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer for this one, but there's 3 kind of steps that we describe the offseason, and we have drafted players, so players that you took in the draft this year that are going to be on the full-time roster. We have a couple of them this year, and there's some stories behind them all. Player departures, guys that were on the full-time roster at the end of last season that aren't going to be on it this year for various reasons. Then players brought in, fans of the team. These are the new faces. These are the guys you got to learn and get used to being on your squad because they were brought in either via trades or free agency or whatever, but definitely some recognizable names all throughout this. Let's start at the top with the draft because the Pelicans had a draft. That's one way of putting it. And I want to make sure I'm clear by saying, like, I don't think anybody here is necessarily a bad basketball player or anything else. I think all of us, though, when the Pelicans were doing stuff during the draft, we all just kind of raised an eyebrow and we're like, so what exactly are you guys doing? I'm not following. And again, Dumars and that group kind of come in. They've got reputations around the NBA that I don't think it's that important to talk about now, but basically, let's just start off with this. Jeremiah Fears. If you want to learn like a bunch about Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen, and these guys, I've got some videos for you guys to watch. I get hired by like NBA teams via my company that I own to be a scout and do all that kind of stuff. So if you want to see some of my thoughts on these guys, I have videos on Fears and Queen that you can look into. They're here on the channel. They were a big success on the channel this year. Jeremiah Fears, very, very young point guard that his whole thing is get to the hoop, get to the hoop, get to the hoop, get to the hoop. That's what he does best. The jump shot wasn't all that great in college. It did have some pretty good moments, though, so we like to think we can kind of develop that. But young, athletic guard that a lot of people described as being like Russell Westbrook type like athleticism, and when we evaluated him on the channel, I was like, no, like, not really. He might still be coming into his body a little bit, and but we don't see like high level athleticism necessarily at all. Like, he's a good athlete, but I wouldn't put him in an elite category by any means. But again, younger players still growing into their bodies, sometimes that explosiveness isn't quite there yet, which seems counterintuitive for young players, but that is kind of how it works sometimes. We immediately have questions about this guy because we always talk about here, when you draft players, you want to give them the opportunity to do the things that they do really well right away. Jeremiah Fears wants the basketball, and he wants to get downhill. He wants to push the ball in transition, all of that stuff. He's not going to really have that operating space on this team. And are we really going to give him the ball like all that much, considering some of the other people that are on the team? I don't know as much. Kind of a weird pick, but talented kid. Derek Queen, a guy that I wasn't particularly as high on as maybe some other people coming into the draft, but basically big-ass center, good footwork, kind of an Alperen Şengün type of guy, right? Where he doesn't shoot from the outside very well, but he can like kind of like work with the ball a little bit, maybe like a solid passer, probably a minus defender compared to like other like NBA level bigs, because he's not that athletic, right? He's not going up and blocking shots, but he's very coordinated, kind of crafty scorer. And he floats a lot like towards the perimeter and stuff too, which is kind of interesting. Like if he doesn't have the ball, he's not doing too much, right? This is a guy that wants the ball, particularly within the three-point arc, to kind of operate, which again, I go, okay, when are you going to get the chance to do that? I had that question just in general, like what team is going to pick this guy and let him do what he does so well at an NBA level, and that's why I think I struggle with the prospect a little bit more, but especially with New Orleans, I don't quite understand the fit. And then the biggest part about them taking Derek Queen, which we haven't talked about yet, is the Pelicans had a first-round pick next year that they were either going to get their own first-round pick or the Bucks' first-round pick, the better of the two next year, which both of them could be like top 5 in the draft or whatever. So this was probably going to be a very good pick, and they traded that pick. It was to Atlanta, right? Yeah, it was to Atlanta to go and get Derek Queen, to which all of us said, whoa. Questionable fit as is, questionable prospect, and you're willing to give up your first round pick next year to do it? I'm confused. It was one of the weirdest trades that we saw this offseason. Most of us don't think it was a very good deal, us just being the general population. We do know that this front office really likes its people from Maryland and tends to go all in on them. I can also tell you for a fact that NBA GMs and front offices can smell an idiot from a mile away, and as soon as something stupid like this happens, a lot of other people try to take advantage of the stupid, and a lot of teams have been calling New Orleans ever since that deal happened because other people want to capitalize on that stupid. Again, hope the deal works out. We're rooting for Derek Queen and everything. I have my hesitations, but we hope it works out. They also got Micah Pevy in the second round. Bigger, older forward, 6'8", can handle the rock a little bit. He was a plus 3-point shooter, so we'll see. Maybe not the highest potential, but interesting prospect whenever you can try to find these 3-and-D guys, so we'll see what happens with him. So not bad players drafted necessarily, but weird fits and weird circumstances to go and get them. But anyway, let's talk about player departures. CJ McCollum, you traded CJ McCollum. You probably needed to trade CJ McCollum. He was getting paid quite a bit of money. His production was still very solid, but you kind of needed a more diverse skill set, somebody on a different kind of age timeline probably, so you're able to turn him into Jordan Poole, which, great. Good for you. I think that that's a good thing overall. I'll be curious to see what happens, and we'll talk about Jordan Poole, but CJ McCollum was like a very solid ball handler at this point. Not like the best playmaker, but he didn't make a ton of mistakes either, and obviously still an efficient scorer, so we say goodbye to him. Kelly Olynyk, who was short-lived here, but he was kind of a spacing center option for this group. Again, he was part of the Jordan Poole move or whatever, and then I believe he got bought out by Washington, right? Is that what happened? And now he's in San Antonio, or did he get traded again? I don't remember. He got passed around quite a bit this offseason. Bruce Brown, I believe he was also acquired as a part of the Kelly Olynyk move because Brandon Ingram getting swapped and everything last year. That was a whole nother thing that happened last year that I just didn't feel like talking about because Brandon Ingram is a complex character in and of itself in the basketball world. But you didn't really get to see Bruce Brown do anything all that interesting. He's been pretty hurt as of late, so you're not missing out on too much there, but the Nuggets are hoping he gets back into form this year. Elfrid Payton, he was technically on the roster. There's not really a plus side of his game at this point, outside of the fact that he will get a ton of assists and a ton of turnovers. That's basically what he's good for now. He's a fine defender. Like, he's a more than fine defender, so I shouldn't completely say, like, there's not another interesting side to his game, but you're not missing him too much. Brandon Boston Jr., Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and Antonio Reeves. I'm going to keep it real with you. None of these guys were contributing anything all that crazy. Brandon Boston Jr. showed a little bit of potential at times to being like a pseudo creator, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl's not a bad rebounder. Antonio Reeves hit a couple threes every once in a while. That's about it. But no, you're not really missing out too much by not having these guys on the roster anymore. And I'm not trying to be like rude or anything. I just don't want to waste your time. I know these videos are kind of long enough. New guys on the team. Jordan Poole is on the team. Pelicans fans, I take it you haven't been watching a ton of Washington Wizards basketball. You remember Jordan Poole from how good he was with the Warriors and everything. Yeah, he had a couple issues, but Jordan Poole, very good basketball player. Didn't look so good when he first got to Washington. It was even worse than I thought as well. But let me tell you, last year, pretty good for Jordan Poole, honestly, as being kind of the pseudo point guard of that group most of the year. Like, he's their leading scorer. He was pretty efficient all around in terms of like the type of player that he was. And that's saying something because he was on the Wizards, who everyone knew he's really the only guy that can go get them some buckets for most of the season. The assist numbers started to look a little bit better as well, and the turnovers weren't like too bad. So, like, honestly, you'd like to think he just is on a better team than he was in Washington. It might not be a ton better of a team, depending on the health of this team on any given day, but it is an improvement. This is a guy that can go get you 20 plus points any single night, and in theory, he should play off of Zion a little bit better than maybe CJ McCollum did, and because you don't have DeJounte Murray most likely to start this year, this is going to have to be your kind of pseudo point guard for the time being. So I think it was a good move overall. I didn't think you really gave up anything all that crazy to go and get him, so there you go. You did go give Kevon Looney like $8 million over the next couple years. I think there's a team option after this year, but I don't think anyone was really competing for Kevon Looney's services, but you gave him a decent amount of money to go be a reserve big. This team has been very desperate for centers for a minute now. Again, play style wise, we talked about at the beginning, this doesn't seem like the type of center you needed, but Kevon Looney is a very solid defensive player, maybe taken out of the defensive scheme that the Warriors run to a T. Hurts him a little bit now, though, and that's kind of where I'm thinking it's gonna go. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure Kevon Looney will get on the court, though, just from his experience alone. And then you do have Saddiq Bey as well. You got that as a part of the Jordan Poole coming over. Saddiq Bey, at one point in time, really young and talented 3-and-D guy. Have been having trouble staying healthy. Obviously didn't play this whole last year. Recovering from ACL, if I remember correctly. I can't remember. But, 6'7", bulky guy that has been a solid shooter at times and a plus defender. So guess we'll see what we end up getting out of him, because there's also been points where he's been kind of below in both of those. But again, dealing with different injuries here and there. We'll see. He's kind of a question mark type guy, but not the worst guy to have on the team, just to give him a shot and see what happens. So overall, the draft was weird. Player departures and stuff, not like a big deal really at all. I thought the players you brought in, like in Jordan Poole, is an upgrade. I don't think it's like, okay, yeah, this team's ready to go now by any means, but I think it was better than what it was. The Kevon Looney one's a little bit interesting. Why not take a chance on Bey, and you just got him? So weird offseason, right? Just weird offseason kind of all around. You look at all these players that were brought in. You brought in all these high-level rookies, but also all these vets, and you haven't really proven that you can win with the team that you kind of have already. So I don't know. I don't know where this team is going with all this. You gave up future draft picks when you might not be very good next year. I don't know. It's a crazy situation. Let's go talk about the rest of the roster. Alrighty, the roster breakdown tab. If you guys have been on my channel for any amount of time, you're definitely familiar with this tab. We use this tab a lot because it does a couple things really well. It kind of shows a team in like its entirety and kind of the situation they're in currently, because we've got a whole roster that we can break down with some salary cap numbers and some stats behind those players. You have the team salary cap situation. You've got draft picks and assets, and then you have the depth chart that nobody ever complains about. Billy definitely doesn't get on the mic and go, AVC, I don't want Jordan Poole being my starting point guard. It's going to be Jeremiah Fears because we took him with the top 10 pick, AVC. Also, Carlo's a power forward, so you should have him over there. Hey, Billy, I got a really busy fucking day ahead of me. I really don't got time for your bullshit, so you better not leave me no damn comments like that, Billy. It's just stupid. But anyway, there is a lot to talk about on this tab. Kind of a cool place to start looking first is the current roster. Now, if you're new to these videos at all, and by the way, I know in these videos I repeat a lot of things over and over again. Like, if you watch all of these season previews, you know what I'm about to talk about right now. I hope it's clear to you guys that the reason I do this is because like 60% of the views on any given video are new people, and I want to make sure I'm talking about things in the correct manner or whatever and explaining things appropriately so I don't get any dumbass comments. Otherwise, it's my fault if you leave a dumbass comment because I didn't explain it to you. You're new. How are you supposed to know? Welcome to the channel, Trayvon. I hope you're having a good day today. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, what are these numbers right here? These are EPM numbers. They stand for estimated plus minus. Basically, this really advanced statistic that we have that tells you how good somebody is at offense, defense, and then overall as a basketball player. I then take those numbers and normalize them, so you get a 0 to 100 score, comparing them against everyone else in the NBA. 0 being the worst at something, 100 being the best at something. As always, as the guy that owns like a basketball statistics company, don't look at any number and just say, that's it, that's the complete story right there. You need to have like the critical thinking skills necessary to actually like look at a number and say, what's the context around this for why the number is that way? That's how you tell a complete story in statistics. We had somebody on the Discord recently say like, with great, with great like stats or something, or with, I don't know, they tried to do the Spider-Man line or whatever, with great power comes great responsibility or something, with great stats comes great responsibility for critical thinking, some bullshit like that, but I found it funny. Anyway, so yeah, don't ever just look at a number and say that's the whole story. Be a good critical thinker. Ask yourself why the number is that way, because that's important. Anyway, Zion Williamson at the top here. Again, we know how good of a basketball player this guy is when he plays. He's phenomenal. Defensively, does make a lot of mistakes, but is able to usually recoup himself because he is just so much more athletic than everybody else. He also makes just defensive plays that nobody else really can make because he's such a phenomenal athlete, right? But I will say he does make a lot of like defensive errors and like lapses in judgment, but offensively, not much you can do to stop this guy. Doesn't need a jump shot. He can just do kind of whatever he wants in the basketball court. Sneakily, one of the better passers in the NBA as well. The guy really reads the floor well, and I think we need to give him more credit for that, and the ball handling's actually pretty good too. Obviously, you got to get healthy and stuff like that, but Zion, good player. Already talked about Jordan Poole. DeJounte Murray is hurt. He was hurt for most of last season. I wouldn't worry about these stats too much. He got hurt like game 1 of the season last year. He was out for a while. He came back, played like maybe 20-ish games or something, got hurt again, so that's really not a good sample to evaluate anyone by, but logically, we have questions about this guy that he likes to get to the hoop. He likes to have the ball, right? He likes to get to his mid-range, and the operating area for Zion without the ball is in the exact same spots on the court. Doesn't seem like the most logical fit in the world, but we don't know because we never get to see him on the floor together. So we'll see how it goes this year. Trey Murphy, one of the more best kept secrets in the NBA, really took a step forward because if there's one thing the last Pelicans front office regime did, is it drafted pretty well overall. They found a Trey Murphy, a bigger wing that could shoot the basketball, crazy athlete, and all of a sudden he starts to put a little bit of playmaking skills in, and that's when you go, ooh, now we have a borderline all-star maybe, and a guy that's like maybe putting up 20 points. I'm not saying he actually was last year, but that's when you start to have those conversations, right? Those are the forwards and the players that are super valuable in the NBA. He talked a lot during the offseason before about how he's like, no, I'm really trying to work on being a creator. Like, I want to be able to do more to just get my own shots, and he really started to do that last year. And then he got hurt. He was out too, but overall, pretty solid player. I'd say his defensive numbers here are being pretty far exaggerated because the people he was playing with on the basketball court were, it wasn't pretty, right? So that's the context, right? Where it's like, look, your teammate is, this is actually a great example. I was playing in a basketball game 2 days ago. I subbed in for like somebody's basketball team, and I think our team gave up like 15 just open back doors, so I had to rotate over and go help on someone, and now my guy's got like an open shot or an open layup because my teammates aren't paying attention and shit. That's the kind of stuff that hurts you, right? It really does. Herb Jones, one of the better defenders in the NBA. Offensively, can't do much to create for himself. Not a great outside shooter traditionally, but defensively, he's one of the best perimeter ones that we have in the league. And he was out for the year last year with an injury at one point too. So yeah, we'll see what happens. He just got a nice little contract extension or whatever. I know a lot of people are looking at trying to trade for him, and if this team starts to fall apart at some point, if he's healthy, you could get a pretty penny for a Herb Jones, man. Everybody wants those defensive wings. Everybody does. So I got to watch out for there. We already talked about Looney. We talked about Fears, Bay, Queen. So we're on to Jordan Hawkins here. Jordan Hawkins, first round pick from a couple years ago. These numbers are pretty accurate, unfortunately. He was bad last year. He wasn't good. I don't like to say that people were bad. I really don't in my videos. We should just say that it wasn't living up to the hopes that maybe we had set for him as a basketball fan base, I guess. But Jordan Hawkins is supposed to be kind of a spark plug, kind of guy off the bench, catch and shoot opportunities, right? Can really heat up. That's what we kind of saw during his rookie season. I was a big fan of him, honestly. Like, I know those types of players don't exist well in the NBA anymore. These kind of smaller combo guards that aren't necessarily like big time playmakers, but they can just be scoring punches. I like them as like 8th or 9th men on a team. I think it's kind of fun to throw them in for a little bit and just be like, hey, go get yours, dude, go get your buckets. So I don't know, but last year he couldn't find his groove, couldn't really shoot. He's a not great defender. So I know a lot of Pelicans fans are already kind of being like, I don't want this guy on my team anymore. It's tough. It's really tough. We'll see. We hope he has a bounce back here. Jose Alvarado, Grand Theft Alvarado. We all see the steals that he gets and everything. He's just a nice basketball player, man. Nice, steady point guard that he's not going to get to the rim, and honestly, if he does, he's not going to finish all that great, but he's going to create a little bit. Like, he's going to have a high assist percentage. He's not going to turn the ball over too much. He's going to hit open threes when he doesn't have the basketball and other people are creating, which is nice. He's going to be super pesty on defense, bring a lot of energy, get the crowd into it. Super valuable guy to have on your team. We love Jose. Yves Missy, rookie from last year. One of the more interesting rookies last season because, like, he was averaging a double-double. When he came into the league, I said, no, this guy's basically young Clint Capella. Like, run, jump, dunk, block shots. That's all I think he's probably going to be in the NBA, but you can certainly make a living by doing that. I will say, Yves Missy has so many moments last year that I like vividly remember where he's just like going and getting the ball and he's like, that's it, I'm going to the rim right now and I'm going to try to dunk it on you, and it does not go well. I will say, coming out of Baylor, they don't always prepare you the best for the NBA, and I'm not going to go too much deeper into that than I need to, but probably a little bit of learning that needs to happen. But overall, he was an effective rebounder. He did block some shots, and if you just use him as a lob threat, it's pretty good. So yeah, let's just hope he can kind of play his role and go from there. Carlo. What do we say about Carlo? Didn't get like a ton of burn or anything last year. He was like a G League sensation kind of down there where he's able to do a little bit of everything. Defensively, he is pretty rough. He's not a great rebounding big or anything, but offensively, he can do like a little bit of everything. Again, that wasn't necessarily NBA good, but we saw like hints of it, and he's a younger guy, so maybe we could see a little bit of growth in that department, but overall, not the most effective player that is out there. So now that we've kind of talked about the whole roster, and we do acknowledge that there is still one open roster spot on here, it is common for teams to sometimes go into the season with an open roster spot because trades are kind of hard to make nowadays, and maybe it's just easier to keep an open spot. But looking at the depth chart, the center position is still a big old question mark. Yves Missy has his things he's good at. He's still young. He has a lot of flaws. Kevon Looney, I have questions about whether or not he's going to be the guy even that he was in Golden State at the end, which wasn't a guy that was getting a ton of burn. Derek Queen, I have questions about that prospect. Carlo, questions there. How much do you really want to play Zion there? I don't know, right? It gets a little bit risky, but you might go to it at certain points. So the bigs, a lot of questions here. You look at the forwards, this team's actually pretty solid there between like Zion, maybe Bay's healthy, Trey Murphy, and Herb Jones, right? There's some stuff to go off of there. We've got kind of Herb starting at the 2 right now just because DeJounte's injured. And you have a lot of interesting things at the guard position between Poole when DeJounte gets back. He's there. Alvarado's very serviceable. You just took Fears with the top 10 pick. I presume you want to get him out there somehow. And like Hawkins, you got to figure out if there's anything going on with this guy. So it's a weird roster, right? It's a weird roster. The guards definitely look a lot better than like some of the other positions on this team, but how do they all fit together? I don't exactly know. I really don't exactly know. With all that being said, let's talk about the team's like salary cap situation here. If you're new to these videos, basically there's 4 levels to the NBA salary cap that you really need to know about. This is my brief overview of them. First is the cap line itself. Once they cross that, this number will show a 0 here, so this team is over the cap. That means you can only re-sign your own players to anything more than a minimum contract. There are exceptions for those, but we're not going to go into too much depth with all of them. Next is the luxury tax line. This team is $4.2 million away from that. That's the scary line. When you cross that line, your team gets way more expensive to operate. And every year you spend over it consecutively, that interest grows and grows and compounds to the point where you become the Boston Celtics this season, and you have to trade away your good players for next to nothing because you just can't afford to exist as a business anymore. So kind of an interesting thing that happens. Then we have the aprons right here. These are newer things added to the NBA to kind of help balance things and stop people from being traded quite so much. They're about $12.3-ish million away from the first apron. If you want to read everything about the aprons, they're here on the screen. You can pause the video and read all the different stuff about it. But basically just know the deeper you go into the aprons, the more the NBA kind of starts to choke you out and just say like, hey, you can't sign this person anymore. You can't use this exception. You can't make trades that look like this anymore. All because usually it's the better teams that are in these aprons, and they're trying to make sure they don't form like an unstoppable thing that nobody can ever beat, right? Eventually you hit that second apron, you kind of get hard capped, and the only way to go from there is down, and that's what happened to the Celtics, right? And it's okay, because if you're a contender and you win, it's more than fine to be up there, but if you don't, it's kind of a waste of time, right? So this team, not being a luxury tax team, probably good. You got to probably prove that this is going to actually be a winning basketball team before you want to pay for all of that. And then we take a look at draft picks, right? We already talked about they traded their picks for next year for a team that might not be very good this year, which is interesting because it's not like there's this extreme young core to build around. Maybe they think that if this team isn't good this next year, they trade Zion, they go get a pick in the draft next year. Maybe they trade Herb as well, and I guess you still have Poole, DeJounte, and Trey. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is going to be a long teardown if this team doesn't end up working out, and then what, you're comfortable saying, well, yeah, Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears, those are the 2 guys we want to start the rebuild with or whatever. Okay, interesting, but, fair enough, I guess. But also, no, that seems kind of dumb. This team's in a weird spot. They've got most of their picks going forward outside of a couple seconds here and there, which is good, but we are concerned about the fact that this team seems to be buying in like they're really close to winning basketball games and putting themselves in a tough teardown situation and not a clear path to actually like make it worth your time. So not exactly sure what's going on there, but we're all going to get to be witnesses to it one way or another. But with all that being said, I want to start talking about trades. We talked about wanting to find a spacing center, so we're definitely going to do that. We're going to try to find a center that can shoot a little bit for this group, and then we'll also just take a look at some of the rest of this roster and see if there's anybody kind of worth moving on from. But let's move forward to that. Alrighty, that brings us back here to Fanspo. Fanspo, for those of you that aren't familiar, really cool website where you can do all these mock trades, mock drafts, all this other fun stuff in the basketball world. It's a free website, and I'm not sponsored or anything. We just love it a lot, and it's a cool place. The problem with Fanspo is because it's free, and this is my assumption, the people that like run it, they don't have a ton of incentive to come on here and update it all the time. And so if you look here, you're not going to see any of the rookies on here. We check every video just in case. In one of these videos, I hope to be proven wrong, but the trade machine isn't like accurate. It's not filled in with all the current information. So this isn't like a knock on Fanspo. We're just saying maybe one of the Fanspo people hear about this, and I just want them to hear, Fanspo, we love you guys. Just update your website, please. We want to use your app, and I'd be happy to sponsor you guys somehow or one way or another. But anyway, we're going to use SpotTrack. SpotTrack is a beta trade machine that can be used. They update their stuff in like real time. It's not as good as Fanspo, but it gets the job done. So who are we trying to trade? Well, first things kind of first, I want to find a center. I've got one center in mind in Vucevic because we know that he's actively on the block and can shoot the 3. So, and he doesn't cost like that much relatively. So, and this is under the presumption that Zion's playing this year. We're playing okay, so we want to try and get some support. So, Vucevic, that's an option, right? Who else could we realistically go after this year that can kind of fill that role. You could go a Wendell Carter Jr. route. He can somewhat shoot the ball. He might have a better shot in New Orleans. And he's used to playing around a guy like Paolo in Zion. So maybe there's something there. We could come back to a Wendell Carter. Anyone else that we're super interested in? Not really seeing anybody, so I say we start with the Vucevic one. So we need the Bulls. Let's get the Pelicans. How can we make this happen? Let's turn on trade deadline mode as well so we can actually make all the moves that we want to make. So first things first, we know that we want Vucevic on the Pelicans. Now, what can we send out that the Bulls will want? Because the Bulls, in theory, should be tearing things down. We never know what the hell the Bulls are actually trying to do, but, you know, we find ourselves here. They probably want to save a little bit of money. There's a team option on Looney. You don't need Looney anymore. You ship him out. That trade's not going to work. It's not enough money. Attach Jordan Hawkins to it as well. The Bulls love their guards. They always do. He's not a point guard, but he is a guard. And he's a young player that they can be like, oh, yeah, let's fuck around with him. See what we want. And that deal still doesn't go through. Really, they're $2 million off here. Okay, then let's just do it this way. Let's just say that we're sending Bay in as well, and that should work. Nope, that still doesn't work. They're over by $1 million. Are you serious? Really? That trade fails. Interesting. Okay, then we have to do this because the Pelicans are getting too much money. We send Carlo over as well. The Bulls can send, what would they want after all of this? They lost some of these guys. I don't know. Who else do we want to throw in here? Like a Javon Carter? No, they have enough guards, and they didn't send any out. You could send a Dalen Terry out, too, or a Julian Phillips. I know, Bulls fans, you think Julian Phillips might be good because he can jump high, but I'm not so sure about that. So this, really, it's that close? Like, we can't send even, like, that much more money out? I don't think that makes sense, does it? How much are the Bulls? The Bulls aren't that close to the cap. That's really interesting to me. But could do something like this, and then you let go of like one of them. Maybe you get like a second round pick in the deal or something from New Orleans as well. So I don't know, like they've got some second round picks that they just don't need at this point. And look, if you traded your first round pick last year, fuck it, man. We're trying to win, so throw something in like that. Not the worst move. So that's an idea. What else could we potentially want to move? There is a chance that you just don't want DeJounte Murray on this team, right? But he's going to be a tough guy to move unless he's really proven that he could play and be healthy. And even then, I'm not sure who exactly wants him because not many teams need a point guard right now, and he doesn't fit on Orlando. I can tell you that. That's not who you want in Orlando. And you're still getting the mixed operating areas then. So who else would you realistically want to move? We could go through a blow-up scenario or something where we're like, okay, we do want to trade like a Herb Jones or something like that. Who would love to have a Herb Jones on their team? Really, any contenders would love to have him. So who could we steal stuff from, and who could kind of use the defender? Like Memphis could. Memphis could really use a small forward like that, couldn't they? That could play like a little bit of defense or something. Doesn't necessarily need the basketball. Can we fuck around with this one a little bit and just kind of see what happens? Because they've got some tradable pieces as well. So let's just say Herb Jones is healthy. He's feeling good about life, and we want to send him over to Memphis. Memphis got some draft picks that we could take on, but let's just say we took back like John Conchar and like... Oh, that doesn't work, huh? We need $1.3 million more. Okay, relax. You get Jacques Landell as well. So we send him over there. That should work. We just release Jacques Landell or whatever. And then we also get from them like a little first round picky. I think we get a little picky. Give us like this Orlando pick potentially, just because Orlando's probably going to be pretty solid this year. Something like that. Not a bad move. At least you got a 2026 pick back again after the nonsense that you did this last offseason. So, and again, hope it works. Hope I look stupid, but I'm not sure that I will. So, maybe some kind of stuff that you could see here, a way to go get a draft pick or something like that. Maybe you want a younger player that's not a John Conchar as well, because Herb Jones is one of the better defenders, on a pretty decent contract. I guess it gets a little bit more expensive after this year, but Say la vie, right? So I don't know, just a couple ideas that you could do this year. I really think the center position is going to be the biggest one if you're trying to actually win some games this year. I wouldn't do too much more to mortgage your future than like a Vucevic or something, or like a Wendell Carter, but it would at least make you a little bit more competitive on a night-to-night basis. Otherwise, if it's not looking good this year, man, just start tearing it down. Start tearing it down while people are healthy and on the basketball court. Just don't fall into the trap, man. Really try not to. But with all that being said, let's move on to the rotations. Alrighty, rotation, question mark. I always put the question mark here just because, look, I'm not in the practices, I'm not in the training camps, I'm not there with these guys while these kind of rotations are being put together. I don't know how all these players look coming into this season. Obviously, training camp and practices aren't all that matters because, look, if Zion doesn't look like the best player ever at training camp, I mean, they're still going to start him. They're not going to not start him. That's just not how it works. But regardless, this is kind of what I'm thinking for things. These are obviously averages. Sometimes Jordan Poole is going to play 20 minutes. Sometimes he's going to play 40. This is kind of the average that I'd be hoping for. And by the way, this is a real activity that I've done with staffs before, is kind of make this stuff. But we also have some EPM numbers over here. These are just these numbers, but now they're weighted by the amount of minutes that everybody's playing, so we kind of got a team score of it. Jordan Poole running the 1 for the time being. I think that's fine. It's serviceable enough. We've got a couple other like solid ball handlers in the first 5, so he's going to be playing over 30 minutes a night. Definitely need him out there as probably our second leading scorer. Herb Jones, again, the defense, we're going to want it out there. He's one of the best defensive players we have in basketball, so let's get him out there. Trey Murphy, he's going to be playing about 33-ish minutes. Man, let's see how good this guy can get. Maybe he is going to get up to like a 23, 24 point a game type of guy. I'm down to explore it, right? Why not? And Zion, got to be healthy and you got to be out there, man. We need you. We're not winning basketball games without you, so that's my hope for him, is around 33-ish minutes. As far as Yves Missy go, while he is starting, I've got him playing more so role player types of minutes. I just don't think he's good enough to warrant playing him much more than that right now. Alvarado, I do have playing some starter level minutes just because I think we need the consistency at the point guard position until DeJounte Murray comes back, and I think he can provide that because he doesn't make a lot of mistakes and he can play without the ball. The defense is very nice on a team that doesn't have a great defensive score. Kevon Looney, I guess let's hope we get some solid defense out of him. Again, not necessarily the center I want with this group, but going to play him kind of sparingly as well whenever Missy's not in. We're getting the young guys out there a decent amount in Fears and Queen. I think there's a more immediate need for Fears, and I think he's maybe a little bit more NBA-like style than Derek Queen is, so I gave him a bit of an edge. And then maybe Sadiq Bey is healthy this year. That'd be nice. I'm not asking him to play a ton of minutes, but let's see what he can do. Obviously, when DeJounte comes back, more of these other guys kind of get pushed down because he's a very good player that we'd want out on the court. Moving over to lineups here, this is where I freeball it a little bit and come up with 3 lineups that I think could kind of be valuable or interesting for the team to run at different points during the game. So here's my ideas. First one, point Zion. We need more point Zion this year. We really do with the DeJounte Murray stuff, but more importantly, just because he's just probably more effective with the ball, and he actually is, like I said, a pretty good playmaker, and he can create for himself pretty well in those spots, and so I've got some point Zion minutes here that I really want to see. And what are we doing around him? We got some defense, we got some shooting, in like potentially Sadiq Bey, Trey Murphy. Again, not the role players I necessarily want, but it's good enough. And now I can play Yves Missy with him a little bit more because he can operate out of the dunk and spot the pick and roll kind of with Zion, which I find kind of interesting. We've got Fears development right here. So we want to get Fears as good as we can. We want him to have a chance to have the basketball and to kind of create for his team a little bit. But what have I done? Because being a young point guard is hard in the NBA, so I've got him around a couple other guys that can take the ball if things kind of start to break down, but they've also shown that they can play without the ball. So Fears will be kind of the primary ball handler with this group, but he's neither guarding the opposing team's point guard, which can be very tough for young guards as well. But again, if things get rough, he's got other people he can kind of play make with. I got him out there with Sadiq Bey again, and then Derek Queen, because again, Fears wants to get downhill. He wants to get to the rim. Queen, while he operates out of there offensively, he tends to be like outside on the arc or whatever. So if that's what we need to do to get him a little bit of space towards the rim, I think that that's fine. I would have a few concerns having both of them on the court at the same time, but we'll give it a shot. And then we got defense, because this isn't a great defensive group. Let's try our best to put a decent defensive team out there, and you can actually kind of create one that looks like this with Alvarado, obviously Herb, Trey Murphy, I do think is a lot better than what his number suggests. Zion, obviously a very solid defender, and Kevon Looney a pretty good one, at least historically. I still have question marks about how good he'll be defensively outside of the Warriors system. But anyway, these are just some lineups that I have in mind that I think could be interesting. There's different points in the game that I'd want to go to these, but just my thoughts. But with all that being said, let's move on to the standings prediction, that final part of the Pelicans season preview. All right, y'all know how this works. I'm going to click this button right here, and the Pelicans are going to appear somewhere on this list, wherever I think they're going to fall. Now, Pelicans got some solid basketball players. We've kind of been critiquing the team fit and everything, so where are they going to be? They're going to be a play-in? They're not in the playoffs at all? Do I think that they're going to surprise us all and be more so like just a straight playoff team? Drum roll, please. Hit the table. There's no sound effect for this ever because I'm too lazy. I got the Pelicans as a 14 seed. I don't know, man. Like, history just tells me it's not going to go well. I'm not sure I trust this organization to make the right decisions with this roster. I think, like, the rookies are in for kind of a rough start with things. And even just, like, some of your best players, I don't understand, like, how they work together. Like, when DeJounte comes back playing off of Zion, I don't get it. I like the Poole addition. I think your center spot is just such a kind of a mess right now, and I don't think that it's conducive to winning. I like Yves Missy, don't get me wrong, as a prospect in of itself, but I'm not sure he's in the best place to succeed right now, and I could see this season falling apart very, very quickly. I hope it doesn't. Like I said, I want to see some Zion dominating in the playoffs. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I don't know. I feel like this is going to be one where it's not going to go good, and then I hope if it does that they just, for the sake of the franchise, just start to sell some things off, man. I really think that you should, because right now, I'm not sure what your plan is. I'm really not sure. I wish you wouldn't have traded that draft pick. I really do, because I'd feel a lot better about things if you still had that. But anyway, that's where I leave the Pelicans. You guys let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm always down to hear them and be a part of those conversations. But speaking of those conversations, let's move on to the comment of the video. Alrighty, y'all. Comment of the video was actually just commented like 17-ish minutes ago or something. It's on our Knicks season preview video here. Go watch the other ones if you haven't. Go show them some love, because like I said, not getting a ton of views right now. It's a dead point in the year, so your basketball sweat if you go and watch those. With this thumbnail, didn't do anything too crazy, because I was like, well, none of these guys are all that interesting on the team, but you know who does have some flair? Big Cat right there. Look at my boy Big Cat dressed up all nice right there. But anyway, the comment of the video is kind of related to that. It's from Skies here, who I believe has had a couple comments of the videos that said, whenever I see Cat, I just remember his voice saying, "Oh my God, foul!" Yeah, he's goofy, man. He's really funny. No, I love Cat. He's so much fun to watch. But yeah, he's a little bit goofy on the court. But anyway, a lot of good basketball conversations kind of taking place in these comments. If you want to have more great basketball conversations, go join the Discord. Link is in the description down below here. It's completely free. It's also how you get access to this spreadsheet here. Again, updating it all the time, so just go back and download new copies whenever you need it, because always making those updates. But seriously, I appreciate you guys. Make sure you share these videos with your Nana and let her know that I say hello. But yeah, share them with everybody. Like, subscribe, comment, ring that bell. You know, the YouTube bullshit and everything. But yeah, you guys are making it through the week. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye.